Could Isaiah Collier or Devin Carter be guard options for the Washington Wizards in the NBA draft? Come on, let's talk about it next on Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Brandon Scott again, and I appreciate you guys making Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So today we're going to talk about a couple of young guards in the NBA draft that I think could be intriguing options for the Washington Wizards if we indeed are looking for another guard. And both of them are definitely attainable, especially if we trade back into the lottery. So these two gentlemen are Isaiah Collier out of USC and Devin Carter out of Providence. So we're going to dive deep in both of them, and then we're going to look at could they fit with the Washington Wizards long term. So let's get into it. We're going to start with Isaiah Collier out of USC. Now, Isaiah Collier is 6'3", 205 pound guard out of the University of Southern California. Now, looking at his stat line, his previous season, he averaged 16.3 points per game, 2.9 rebounds a game, 4.3 assists, 1.5 steals. He shot 49% from field goal and 33.8% from three-point range. So just from a number standpoint, what really pops out at me? Well, he's a guy who can score. 60.3 points a game. He's a guy who we're going to talk about his pros and cons, but with his speed and his ability to attack the basket, which again, I'm gonna bring up again, he definitely can score. He's a scoring guard, man. So that is one number points out to me. Steals, 1.5 steals per game. Again, he's a guy who likes to get active in, disrupting passing lanes. So 49% for field goal is definitely what I'm looking at, is definitely a good stat. 3-point percentage, 33.8. Definitely want to see an improvement there, but it's not a guy where his shot's not broken. He's a guy where, with touches, with development, I think that his mid-range and his three-point shot will definitely develop in the NBA. So let's look at some pros. What do I like about Isaiah Collier out of USC? Well, number one, again, I kind of mentioned it before, attacking the basket. He can attack the basket, with his speed. He can definitely attack the basket. And I said all the time, when he attacked the basket, he collapsed defense and he utilizes outside shooters. So, I definitely like the fact that, with his speed, with his dog, because, he's a very physical player, man. He can definitely attack the basket and definitely draw a lot of fouls. So I love that. Number two, again, I kind of mentioned it before, speed, but also speed and transition play. He kind of, with his speed and especially in transition, it fits the long-term look at what this team is trying to do in DC, which is speed, the pace. He's a guard where he's definitely going to speed the pace. He's going to speed up the pace a lot. I mean, he's going to attack the basket, with his speed. He's definitely going to set up a lot of opportunities in transition for this team. Like I said, this is a team where we're trying to get faster, and I think that Isaiah Collier would definitely be a guy who we could utilize in transition, catch a lot of defenses off guard, man, and off balance, man, and really speed his team up. So, that those are a couple things I really like about Isaiah Collier, man. His ability to attack the basket and draw fouls, his speed and transition play. A couple of things, playmaking and pick and roll upside. His playmaking, man, again, he reminds me of, if you're going to compare him to a Wizards guard, to be John Wall. Now, I'm not saying, look, before you say anything, I'm not saying he's going to be John Wall, but 6'3", 205, he's got some weight to him, man. So he's physical. He's got speed, but he can be a physical player. He's got that dog, but he got the speed, man. So his playmaking ability to utilize shooters on the outside when he collapses defenses, definitely get other people involved as opposed to just being a score first guard is a guard that we desperately need in DC. So, Isaiah Collier is a guy that I like. I've definitely, this week have been looking a lot at Isaiah Collier. And he's a name that a lot of people brought up. So I definitely wanted to start this week off right, man. Talk about a guy that has definitely been brought up. So, what are some other ththings I like about him? The biggest thing to kind of round out everything as far as his pros, he's a dog. We need more dogs. He's athletic, but he plays physical guy. He's very physical, and I like that. He's got that mentality. He's a dog. So, a lot of pros. I mean, again, with his speed and transition play, his ability to attack the basket, his playmaking ability, and is these guy where pick and roll. He can definitely be a guy that can set up a lot of these taller guys, whether it is a Marvin Bagley, whether it's a Vucevic, whether we go out there and get another center in the draft, whether it's a Ware, Edie, Klingon. He pairs well with a big and then pick and roll situation, man. So those are my pros for Isaiah Collier. Now let's get into some of his cons. So one big con I noticed from Isaiah Collier, turnovers. His decision making with the ball, questionable at times. There's definitely something that he's going to have to work on if he wants to translate into the NBA. He's got to work on the turnovers. He's got to work on decision making. And like I said, that is something that you definitely want to translate to the NBA because look, you got to be able to chill with the turnovers. And so like I said, that is one big issue I see from him. Now, do I think it's something that he could get better at? Absolutely. Like I said, he's a guy where I think he's a prospect that can be developed. He will get better. And he reminds me a lot of John Wall. Like I said, I'm not saying he's going to be John Wall. I'm saying that if I could compare him to a wizard, it would be John Wall because he's fast. He transition. He's money in transition. He's a guy who can make guys around him better. Now, his shot. Now, again, John Wall was not known for his shot. Now, I get it, that game 6 shot, yeah. But overall, a mid-range shot, not so much mid-range, but more so three-point shot with areas that John Wall often struggled. And you kind of see that with Isaiah Collier. I mean, he did shoot 49% for field goals, so a lot of that goes with attacking the basket and getting a lot of looks in the paint. But also his mid-range game ain't bad. It needs to get better, but it's not bad. And his three-point shot, 33.8, definitely want to see it improve. You definitely want to see him anywhere from 35 to 37% three-point range as far as percentages, but I think those areas of his game will get better with development. And again, what are we doing in DC? The name of the game is development. So, Isaiah Collier, man, I think that he would be a guard that I wouldn't mind the Wizards targeting because right now, look, I say this all the time, we're getting closer to the drafts in a couple of weeks, but right now a lot of decisions need to be made, especially in the months of June and July as far as roster construction with the Wizards, because looking at point guard, and this is a poll I'm going to put out after the episode concerning Jordan Poole. Do you believe that Jordan Poole is a long-term answer at point guard, or do you think he's holding the place till his trade value goes up? So I'm definitely going to do a poll question on that. But, we don't know right now. I know that a lot of guys in the organization do like Jordan Poole. But, do I think that stops you from drafting a point guard? And I'm going to say no. You still draft at point guard. I mean, here's the thing. I like Jordan Poole. I definitely see him being a long-term answer. But you could also, on the flip side, see the Wizards boosting his value and moving on from him because looking at the contract, and they very well could go younger at point guard. And, that's not a bad option. Like I said, I like Jordan Poole. I think that he very well could be part of the future. But, and that's why looking at a guy like Isaiah Collier, who I think could be a point guard in the NBA, I don't think that Jordan Poole prevents you from drafting a point guard. You definitely want a guy that you can groom. And then when the time comes, if you move on from Jordan Poole, he can be your point guard of the future. And Isaiah Collier is definitely a player that I see can definitely be a long-term answer in DC at point guard. So kind of looking where that a lot of mock drafts are drafting him. I see him from a late lottery pick to the mid first round pick. So what's that tell you? He's definitely a guy that, the Wizards are going to have to trade back into draft. I don't think he's going to be available around 26. And he's daggone sure ain't going to be around 51st. So he's a guy that I could definitely see drafted anywhere from 10 to 15. There's been a few mock drafts where he was drafted within the top 10, but I definitely see him as maybe a 10 through 15, if not maybe a little bit later, depending on fit and trades happening during the NBA draft. But he's a guy that I think we're going to have to trade back in to get. And I think that, look, again, Will Dawkins has shown that he is looking to trade back into the lottery. So if we trade back into the lottery, Isaiah Collier is a guy we need to target, in my opinion, because I think that, again, hate him or love him, Jordan Poole is definitely going to be the point, at least for the next couple of years. But that should not stop you from drafting a point guard. And I think that Isaiah Collier is a point guard that you definitely have to target in the NBA draft. So Devin Carter out of Providence. He's a very intriguing guard, man, with some defensive and rebounding upside. So should the Wizards take a look at him? We're going to talk about that next. But before we do, tonight's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. So passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive, baby. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and a lot more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. I'm trying to tell you. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guarantee Fit only available to U.S. customers. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day long? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. I'm trying to tell you, Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news. Streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. All right, everybody, let's get back into it. Now, Devin Carter out of Providence. And like I said, I've really died. He's another name that I see has been brought up a few times, man, not only within the Wizards community, but within other teams, man. And his name is really popping up, man. I mean, he's really rising on draft boards and for good reason. Let's get into it. All right. Devin Carter, 6'3", 193-pound guard out of Providence. I'm looking at his stat line. He averaged 19.7 points per game. Lord have mercy. But here's the stat that really pops out to people, man. 8.7 rebounds a game. Now, looking at the fact that he's 6'3" and 193 pounds, that is something I like in guards, man. Scrappy guards who can go in there and grab boards, man. I think that, and we're going to talk about him being a dog in the bound, man, but he screams dog. And again, we need more dogs in the 202. Assists per game, 3.6. Now, here's the other stats I like about Devin Carter. Steals per game and blocks per game. He averaged around 1.8 steals per game, and he averaged around 1 block per game. So, some other stats to look at. He shot 47.3% from field goal range, so not too shabby. But his three-point shot, let me say this. He did shoot 30.6% from three, but I see him as, if in the right fit, in the right system, in the right environment, I think his shot would definitely get better. His percentages will get better because he looks like a shooter. I didn't dive too much into the system they ran in Providence, but he's a guy where you saw that he gets his looks. So I think that his shot's going to translate to the NBA. So I think I'm not going to be too concerned with his shot. Not yet. More so mid-range and three, but we're going to talk about that in a little bit. All right, so let's get into some pros. What do I like about Devin Carter, man? Well, easy, man. Defensive impact and versatility. He's versatile. 6'3", obviously he can guard the 1 and the 2, but there was times, from the tape and the scouting report, he was guarding threes. Now, I wouldn't recommend him being your primary guy to guard threes, man, but he definitely has defensive impact. He's a dog. Again, 1.8 steals per game and a block per game for a guy who's 6'3" and 193 pounds. So, I mean, number two, we going back to the numbers, 8.7 rebounds. His rebounding. Again, for 6'3", this guy has a dog mentality. He goes in there and he gets rebounds, and that's the type of guard that I like in DC, man. A guy who's just scrappy, who's not, he's not going to back out going into the paint and getting a rebound and extending possessions for his team. He's a guy who's going in there, get dirty, get nasty in the paint and try to get rebounds. I mean, 8.7 for a 6'3" guard. Come on, y'all. So those are a few things I do like. Some other things I like is ability to drive, kind of like Isaiah Collier. He can drive the lane. He can definitely get to the charity strike, man. And number 4, athleticism. Very athletic, especially on the defensive end, man. Very, very athletic. So what are a couple things I do not like about Devin Carter, man? Well, number 1, playmaking. He's a guy who he has to be set up, especially for his three-point shot. He has to be set up on offense, man. Not that he cannot be that guy, but if you draft him, you're not drafting him to be your starting point guard. You're kind of looking at a guy who's going to be a 2 guard. Maybe kind of like a Lou Dort, maybe an undersized 3, but I definitely see him as a 2 guard, a defensive-minded 2 guard. Now, like I said, his offensive game, I think, can get better, but it kind of goes into my next point, what I don't really like, which is, it's not I don't like it, is that it's something that he needs to add to his game, which is adding a mid-range shot. He's a guy where I think his 3-point percentages will get better in the NBA. Now, he needs to add a mid-range. He needs to add a floater, kind of add an in-between game, because right now, he's a guy who can drive, and I think that he's going to get those looks in the NBA as far as being a shooter. I think he will be a better 3-point shooter, but he's got to add an in-between game. He's got to add a mid-range. He's got to add a floater. He's got to add other pieces to his offensive skill set. Now, looking at comps, man, it's a hard one because I just had a name. Just bear with me, man. What's his name? I'll hit you guys later up with the comps, man. But it reminds me of a couple guys in the league, man. Scrappy guards who can rebound. Look, this kid's oozing with potential, man. I mean, this kid can play some basketball, especially on the defensive end. He is very intriguing for the Wizards, man, because we need more defensive-minded guys, man. We need more guys who can get in there, and be nasty. Especially guards. We need more guards who are defensive. We don't really have a guard who's a defensive-minded guard. Most of our defenders wings, whether it's Denny, whether it's Bilal. Even though I can't see Bilal maybe playing at the 2, but we need a guard who can defend. We definitely need more defenders because, again, I know we heard the defensive tag with Wesley So Jr., but defenses is an area where Brian Keefe has gotten players better at. So I think he's a coach where, and with, Devin Carter, he's already coming in as a really good defender. His offensive side is a side that you definitely want to see him improve in. So where does he kind of draft that? Looking at mock drafts, he has been drafted anywhere from, as far as mock drafts, but anywhere from the late lottery to the mid-teens. So it's very similar to Isaiah Collier. Now, I will say this. There's been a few where I saw he entered the top 10. And, he's definitely a guy who a lot of teams are starting to, he's starting to rise up a lot of draft boards for a lot of teams because his defensive prowess, his defensive impact, his versatility, his ability to rebound, he can drive, he can get to the charity strike. He's very athletic. And while playmaking and adding a mid-range and a floater are things that he needs to add, he's a guy who can definitely provide points. He averaged 19 points a game this year in Providence. So he's a guy who can definitely score. He's a defensive-minded guy, but he can definitely score the basketball. So, you definitely want to see him improve playmaking, try to make other people around him better. And the mid-range and floater, he definitely has to add those to be successful in the NBA, in my opinion, man, because, you got to have the in-between game. And I think that for him to be successful, for his game to translate to the NBA, he's got to work on those 2 areas, which is playmaking, put the ball on the floor, getting other people involved, and adding a mid-range and a floater game to his offensive repertoire. So, again, he's a guy that if we wanted to target him, we would be a guy that we had to trade back into the lottery. And again, I do believe that we're gonna have to trade back into the lottery and get another pick. Now, could Will Dawkins make it to where we get 3 first-round picks? I think it's plausible. Now, any kind of move, especially if it includes Kyle Kuzma and trading back into the lottery, which whether it's number 3 at Houston, whether it's number 9 at Memphis, number 10 at Utah, number 13 Sacramento, or number 15 Miami. Maybe they ask for the number 26 just because they have a pick in this year's draft, even though a lot of people aren't in love with this draft. But you very well could see us trade back into the lottery using a player like a Kyle Kuzma, or it could be a Jordan Poole, depending on the team. But I definitely think that 3 first rounders in this draft, man, you're definitely going to get 3 guys who are going to be able to, because you're going to find talent around 26 and trade back into the lottery, man. You're going to get a couple of high impact prospects, in my opinion. And we very well could, find a lot of wants that we need for the right now and for the future. We're rebuilding, but it's also going to be a youth movement, especially if we move on from Kyle Kuzma. It's going to be a youth movement. So you very well could see younger guys be put in starting role. Now, obviously, started, you're looking at Denny, looking at Bilal. We'll see, with Corey Kispert, but you can definitely find a couple of high impact guys in this year's draft. And then at 26, there's a lot of talent around 26. You got the center out of Baylor, Missy. He's somebody that I'm covering tomorrow night. So a lot of options, guys, a lot of options. But Devin Carter is a guy that if we trade back in, if he's available, you make that move because we need a scrappy guard who can defend. He can provide points, especially on the second unit. So, Devin Carter, man, he's been, I've been looking at him in the last couple of weeks. He's a prospect I really, really like out of Providence, man. So we're going into the itinerary for the rest of the week, what we're going to cover real quick. But before we do, tonight's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. So when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Whoa. So, look, all you have to do is post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, everybody, let's round the show out. Like you said, these are a couple cards that I definitely think the Wizards should target if they're available, if they trade back into the lottery. Now, do you really want to stretch by getting Isaiah Collier or Devin Carter too? And I think most of us would say no to that. Now, there might be a hardcore fan of USC and say, yeah, go for it too, or for Providence, man. But I think that both of these guys are guys that you target by trading back into the lottery. Usually around pick 10 to 15. That's where I see both of these guys at. Now, there's a couple drafts where I saw Devin Carter going 9 to Memphis. We'll see. They need more defense and score, but there's definitely guys that I think they're going to be available from 10 to 15. Now, would they fall around 26? I don't believe so. I think that, again, both of these guys are definitely targets for the Wizards if they trade back into the lottery, which, again, I think they definitely should, and I think they will. I think that I'm a caller. I think that we trade back into the lottery because, look, this front office knows that, yes, this is a weak draft, but this for a team like the Wizards, this is perfect. It's a development draft. You can find high-end talent if you develop it right. We have everything in place, again, to develop young talent. That wasn't the case 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, ever, right? Now, we're trying to change the narrative of that as far as the Washington Wizards. With a revamped scouting department, a coach that has prioritized development and a front office where their MO is development, the scouting and development of young talent and accumulating picks. We are building the environment where young players can come in and develop right. So, and you saw the change in, with young players, this previous season with Brian Keefe in the second half of the season. He got a lot more out of the young players than Wesley Sell Jr. did. And you can argue he got a lot more out of veterans than Wesley Sell Jr. did. So I definitely think this is the right environment for us to really be active in this draft, man. Because, yes, next year, Cooper Flagg, but I say it time and time again. Look, you get that number one pick, you absolutely go after Cooper Flagg. But don't make it Cooper Flagg or bust, man. I had a conversation with my guy, Wiz Takes. Shout out to Wiz Takes. I think that there's other good talent in that draft next year, man. But here's the thing, you could start developing now. And I think we should. The youth movement needs to start this season. I think that Kyle Kuzma, while you don't need to move him, you definitely, if you want to start the youth movement and really evaluate some of these guys that we're bringing in and how they mesh with the guys that we already have, I think this is the year to do that. So I'm looking forward, everybody. Like I said, I'm going to look at around the 26 pick. So we're going to look at a lot more options around the 26 pick. We're going to take a look at Missy, the center out of Baylor, and a lot of other names, man. And we're going to delve into the 51st pick. We're going to look at some gems in the second round and see if we can work our magic like we did with Vucevic this previous draft. So, again, appreciate you guys, man. Definitely comment below. Let me know what you're thinking about Isaiah Collier out of USC or Devin Carter out of Providence. Would they be on your target? Would they be your targets? Would they be on your radar? And do you think that if the Wizards trade back into the lottery, should the Wizards pick up one of these young men? I definitely think so. But you guys comment below and let me know what you're thinking. So, again, appreciate you guys, man. Rocking with me like you always do. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's available on Amazon Fire TV and the Free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus the national shows covering every single league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the Free Fire TV channels app. So again, man, look, appreciate you guys, man. Appreciate you taking the time to rock with me. But we'll see you guys tomorrow night. We're going to take a look at the 26th pick and what prospect could we target with the 26th overall pick in the first round in the NBA draft. Hail to the Wizards and peace. I'll see y'all tomorrow night.